in the County Public Works Committee for the month of April 2025. With that,
Second.
motion to accept the minutes.
Moved. Second.
Moved in second. All right, Sue second again. Any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The big department report today is the sewer district. Sue, the floor is yours.
All right, the first item is the wastewater treatment plant concrete contract change order number 8. We are in the finishing stages of the big upgrade project at the plant. This change order is accomplishing 3 things. The first being the sludge removed from our digesters, which are our tanks where some of the treatment is happening, ended up costing more than originally designed. That was just due to increased cost of disposal. That was $22,151.25. One of the digesters that was repaired actually cost a lot less than originally estimated. So that was a cost decrease of $50,484. Now it's just basically because they were in better condition than we thought. You couldn't really tell that until you pulled off some of the people was underneath it. And one of the items we've been kind of pushing along to, towards the end of the project, there is a staircase going to one of our buildings. It's the preliminary treatment building. It's a concrete staircase. We can't even use it right now. It's caution taped off. It's a safety hazard. So we got a price on replacing that, and that's $31,576. So altogether, it's actually an increase of the contract amount of $3,243.25. The commissioners are in favor of this. Essentially, the contract we've had for a couple of years, we're looking to increase that for the 8th time by around $3,000, and to get some safer stairs in the process.
Motion to move to finance.
Motion.
Yeah, I'll second. Does it need to go to finance?
Authorize the chairman to sign, I guess, the change order.
Okay. That's all we need to do on that.
So move to the board.
Move to the board. So we got still Tim's first, second by Sue and Lance. Any more discussion on that? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Number 2 is our staffing pattern change request. Our current staffing pattern has 3 labor positions down to sewer district and 4 operator or operating trainee positions. I say or because at any time we could have either 3 trainees, 1 licensed operator, or 4 licensed operators, 0 trainees. Are kind of interchangeable the way they're set up. Our needs right now are greater for an operator trainee than a laborer. So I'm looking for a staffing pattern change to remove 1 laborer position, which is a grade 8 position, and add 1 operator trainee, which is a grade 12 position. That being said, of course, there's a price increase. We've been currently unable to fill our senior operator position for well over a year now. That's a grade 19 position. So obviously, we have the money there. The reasoning why I use that position in particular is because my goal is to promote from within. The problem with that is it takes 4.5 years from somebody coming in as a trainee to get the licensing to be a senior. So it's a long process. I'd like to get as many trainees as I can. By taking away a labor position, that just means the remaining trainees and operators will be tasked with doing whatever duties are being able to.
Make a motion, move that, the personnel. Dave, second by Tim. Any other discussion on that staffing pattern change? All's in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Number 3, the process control. It's actually the multifunctional process control administration building project, the seeker. Right now, we're going through the seeker process. I talked about this at the last meeting, but we have done the coordinated review. What that means is we sent out, the descriptions of the projects, to whatever about agencies there may be. We've received a couple responses. None are in opposition of our, seeking lead agency and the project. So what I'm asking the committee today is to relay the environmental assessment forms, which are a couple of the handouts you have, to the full board of supervisors, where part 2 will be read aloud. If you remember, the same thing was done recently for the DPW project. And if there are any questions with the part 2, we'll explain that with part 3, and we'll discuss it live at the board of supervisors meeting. If there are no adverse environmental impacts found, we'll recognize the negative declaration.
So, maybe you had a chance to thumb through this. I believe this went out. Email was done prior. And we have part 1 and 2.
I believe part 1 was handed out. Yeah, so this is part 2 and part 3.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay, so
they have all 3 parts in the packet. Again, plus potential resolution. Push to move to the full board.
Dave.
Dave, second by Lance. Any more discussion on the seeker? Just encourage everybody to go and we'll go through the next board meeting. All's in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right, so.
Yeah, my last item is the Irving Tissue Temporary Line Dedication. This is the other, was this 2 handouts or 1? I apologize. Anyway, this remaining handouts. Irving Tissue did a temporary sewer line relocation in 2024. And we've completed our engineering and legal review, and we're looking to accept the dedication of the new temporary line. We call it temporary because the intent was always that there's going to be another move to a permanent line location within the next couple of years. So I'm looking for the committee to authorize the chairman to sign any and all documents to the line dedication right now.
So motion by Dave, second Tim. Any more discussion on this? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right, well, I'm gonna do a little other business real quick before we move to the next step. Just a reminder, Deb's on vacation this week, but we're still looking at the carpool, all the data on cars. All right, so we'll get all that data together. We'll be taking a look at that in terms of utilization and kind of work on some options that may be available to us to help us impact the budget. So just that'll be some homework we'll have to do here in the next couple of weeks before we really get into the budget cycle, which is fast approaching. It's on us now. Any other business? Yes.
I have a question on the sludge removal. Okay, there's been an increase, and can you share what the increase would be, and do we know where it's going now?
So this is all done already. What happened was our digester tanks, if you've ever been to the plant, or the round tall tanks, they had existing sludge in them that needed to be removed for the internal components of the tank to be repaired. When the project was estimated, they didn't know exactly how much tonnage would be in there. It was kind of a guessing game. And then, so that's one factor. And the other factor is whoever removed the sludge had to bring it to a landfill, and that landfill increased the price. They had no control over it. So we understood the reasoning, and the same thing happened with the first tank, this second tank, this number, but the last one.
I'm curious, the future of removing cake or sludge,
Yep.
taking it somewhere, the cost seems like it's only gonna go up.
Right, so we have our own compost facility that we were able to kind of skate around the increasing cost of landfill disposal. This was unique to the projects. We had to have a third party come in, and there was too much sludge for us to process in a normal way. It all had to come out in a hurry.
Someone had suggested that potentially we could use the wastewater treatment at Great Meadows to get rid of sludge. Is that something that we could?
I
We should
don't
think about
know anything about their system or what they were doing with their sludge.
Good idea, though. Good thought.
In theory, the larger plants can take sludge from the smaller plants. plants. I think that was a smaller plant. You know, usually like larger plants can build excess capacity and whatever they're using to dry the sludge. That's one of our projects we're gonna have on the shelf right now because we don't have the money for it, is to build a sludge dryer that can take sludge from other municipalities. There's no funding for that right now.
Where's your compost and sludge go?
We sell it. We sell it everything we can. If we end up with too much.
Is it tested for heavy metals and PFA?
Yeah, we test for whatever we're required.
Well, that was a vague answer.
Yeah.
Genius already did.
Yeah, to Sue's point, and Jason, the comment you just made about the facility up there, in Great Meadow now has that whole section with about 500-600 inmates on a daily basis that we're filling that aren't there anymore. So there may be room up there if they could do that. It may be a way to, to Sue's point. It was built and it was smaller for a larger capacity because of what they had there.
Yeah.
Now they've got over half the facility. The main one is closed out completely. The other one doesn't generate anywhere near the.
Yeah. So we get our sludge basically to a certain point and then we bring it to our compost facility. So I guess what you guys are proposing, if instead we bring our sludge to the compost facility, we brought it to Great Meadows for whatever dewatering equipment they have. I don't know what equipment.
I mean, and it wasn't a proposal, it's just, I just wanted to point out that, well, you made the comment about the fact that they built larger ones,
Yeah,
and I'm sure they did when they put that in the Great Meadow, and stuff, so it's not being looked up to capacity. If we needed a place to, it might be something that the county could benefit from tremendously.
Any other discussion? Yes, sir.
Nothing under the sewer, but you know, under other.
Yep.
And I wanted to talk to Jim first and Deb, but Deb's not here. Has everybody seen the notice about the new bridge going in on Route 4 where we cross over into Saratoga County? There was an article and pictures in the Eagle, but it's such a fuzzy picture in black and white that it's really hard to see the details. But basically, when you go down Route 4, you have to come onto the 1-lane iron bridge. The new bridge is going to be built on the left-hand side or the south side or downriver side. Well, that intersection is also the Champlain Canal Trail. It comes across to the Dix Bridge and then comes up 113, crosses over 4 onto River Road. And then you hit what they call it, the Sarah Eidelman $1 billion bike bridge. They got a comment on, but getting back to that, 113 is so narrow, there is no shoulder when it comes up to Route 4. And since they're moving the Route 4 over to there, and there is no shoulder till you get to what we call Cottrell Road, which is in Thompson, where you turn off from. That needs to be corrected for the trail. And this is the time when the state is creating that whole new intersection, is if we could lobby somehow to address that. Because you got wetlands, you got state property there on the right-hand side. And the reason I'm bringing it up is when remember when they did the bridge on 113 by Hollingsworth and Bose? They had a public comment period where you could go in. They had it one night and it was noticed in the Eagle, the same public comment. And whenever you build a bridge like that, and they have different options and choices, and you can make recommendations. And the only two that came to that public hearing tonight was Sarah Eidelman and myself, the 2 town supervisors. And you had to pick between what type of bridge you wanted. And I said, how do they determine it? They said through public comment. I said, you mean Sarah and I sitting here, we get to pick the bridge? He said, yeah. I couldn't believe it. And so we picked a precast bridge because we wanted Fort Miller to have an opportunity to bid on. So I I couldn't get over the authority the public has, and as in this case, we have, and we want to take advantage of that somehow or other. And I don't know how you want to do it, but we don't want to pass this up. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about, Jim, before it's in your town, not my town, but it's the Champlain Canal Trail that I'm really concerned about.
Put lights on that bridge.
Huh?
Put lights on that bridge.
The engineer came,
I wanted lights on it, you know.
state engineer came and spoke to me about it. And showed me a picture of it. And it's going to have, as you suspect, bike and walk lanes on either side.
Of the bridge,
Yes,
yeah.
and it's gonna be built alongside and it has to be done only certain times of the year because the canal's going through and it has to be kept open. So they're actually gonna work during the winter to do it. We're gonna change that intersection, which as you know, that intersection onto 4 is terrible trying to get out. In terms of looking both ways, we're changing the whole thing. But I do agree with you, that is the Champlain Canal Way bike path. And when you get over to 113.
There's no
You're
shoulder.
taking your life in your hands with a bike. It's so narrow. And I'm not sure whether we can tell them to do something with 113.
Well, you're so close to the intersection. If they address it with their sidewalks and, you know, pedestrian traffic, we might get them to widen that. They only gotta go 100 yards. That's all there is, 100 yards of issue there. That's
Really?
wetlands. And
Well,
since they're
Perhaps
gonna
you
be
and I should
dealing,
look at it and take a better look at it. And I've got the guy's card. We can call.
and do you know what the date is for the public hearing? It was
Uh,
coming up in May.
They already had at the Blue Ridge Library, a look-see at their plans. And people came and looked at it, and there were 2 guys answering questions,
Yeah,
but I haven't heard about the public.
I think
And it's not scheduled.
It's the same thing down at the visitor center. Trailerville. But
okay.
it wasn't a public hearing either, that was, you know, a couple of
Information.
guys that he came with, these will show pictures of it. Artist renditions of what it was gonna be, just the bridge itself.
And they're
But
talking,
I don't believe
building
it's been a public hearing notice, yeah.
Well, I just wanted to bring it up because this is an opportunity we don't wanna miss.
and they're talking about building it in 27 or 28, so.
Yeah, they say all the way out to 32 before 1930 or 2032 before it's opened. But they're gonna keep the old one open while they're doing it.
But just as when Jay and I dealing with the bridge across the valley, it has historic value. So the same group of people are probably going to argue that it has historic value, and it should be left there.
Wonderful. Any other, before we go to our next step? With that, Dan, can you lead us into this?
Yes, we need to have an executive session regarding discussions of proposed pending or in this case, current litigation.
Motion to go to executive, Jay. Thank you. A second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right.